So guys, Bayer Leverkusen CEO spoke recently about Xabi Alonso's future, gave us the truth about his release clause, and it seems like the jigsaw is falling into place. Really good Radiohead song, by the way. And I say that, not about the song, but things falling into place because on the other side at Real Madrid, what we've been saying for months is seemingly happening. It's looking like Xabi Alonso will take over at Real Madrid. Disclaimer alert, I can't say this absolutely definitively, but similarly to how we pieced together that Neymar would go to Santos months before it happened, or that Endrick would end up at Real Madrid months before that happened, given it seems even more obvious that Xabi will end up at Real Madrid, we can put all of these pieces in place with some confidence, given what Fernando Carro of Leverkusen's been quoted as saying about it, what's happening with Leverkusen this coming summer, which could cause Xabi to want to move on, what's happened with Real Madrid this season, strong rumors in the media, as well as a certain national team and club that are incredibly interested in Don Carlo's services. So it's this convergence of a bunch of things. So let's get into this. Thanks for joining me, by the way. I'm Adrian, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe for all kinds of videos like this and like other videos. Let's go.
Financial situation is good. They want to bring in players. Florian Wirtz is a name that they've been looking at.
So Xabi Alonso had a fantastic team at Leverkusen. Well, has one still. A team that did the cup double last season and lost just once, unfortunately for them, in the final of the Europa League. That would be one of the best seasons, one of the greatest achievements of all time in this sport if they had won that, eh? Not just because they won a treble of sorts, but they would have done so as immortals across the entire season. Gasperini snatching them out of the history books. Well, they're still in the history books given what Xabi had done for Leverkusen. They're all legends for Leverkusen, but you catch my meaning. This past season has been a little bit tougher. Once it was obvious that they wouldn't be amongst the trophies in their two cup competitions, Pokal and Champions League, and once they had allowed Bayern to get too far ahead in the league, the rumors that Xabi was on his way out really began to ramp up. But there's something else that leads me to believe that Xabi may be ready to relinquish the Leverkusen head post in order to allow someone else to take over this transition. As the days go by, we see more and more Leverkusen players that may be on their way out of the club, key players as well. The first one, the biggest one of course, which similarly to Alonso had claimed that they would stay another season at the minimum after their cup double, is Florian Wirtz. With Manchester City themselves in a transition, De Bruyne leaving, Bernardo Silva now expected to leave, maybe to Benfica, which would be sick, City have already actually begun their changes in bringing in plenty of young players. This started in January. And with a gaping hole in the midfield for a creative attacker, Florian Wirtz is as close to the best as you can get, right? A player who at just 21 years of age isn't just promise, but a true threat already and for years to come. Whether he actually ends up at City, we don't know for sure, but Wirtz has a rumored buyout clause somewhere in the region of 125 million euros. But he's not the only big name that could be leaving Leverkusen this summer. Jonathan Tah has actually just confirmed that he will be leaving Leverkusen at the end of the season. There are also heavy rumors pointing toward Frimpong angling for a move away from Leverkusen this summer. His contract is until 2028, but Fabrizio Romano had said just last month that he does have a release clause of just 40 million euros. That's actually quite a good price for someone who can play as a wingback, fullback, or even winger, so there's a lot of teams that will be in for him. And so, with potentially some key departures such as these, some pillars of the squad, in my opinion, if I'm Xabi and I factor in the other things that we'll go over in a moment, it would feel like the ideal time to say, you know what? This is a big, important job to sort of renovate this squad and refine the project going forward, and it's not worth it for the club to have them focus on transfer targets in my vision for the club, when I will most likely leave at the end of my contract in 2026 anyway, so let's rip the band-aid now and let someone else take over. Personally, that's how I see it. It seems reasonable to me. Last year, during the March international break, Xabi Alonso told them that he would stay for another season despite a lot of interest from clubs like Bayern and Liverpool. And funnily enough, similarly to Xabi, Real Madrid's coach Carlo Ancelotti was also linked away from Real Madrid last year, and those links are back again.
There are strong possibilities for Carlo Ancelotti to leave. Brazil want Ancelotti before the Club World Cup, and I told him.
Now, while the talks of where Xabi would end up next were swirling, there were also strong rumors last year pointing Carlo Ancelotti to the Brazil national team job. In the end, they went with Dorival Jr. as Ancelotti stuck around with Real Madrid, and that has been a disaster for them by Brazil's own standards with Dorival Jr. Horrible. Last season, sure, there are always exceptions to the rule, but it seemed like most Real Madrid supporters that I interacted with were not wanting to lose Carlo Ancelotti. Yes, there were some that found that the team was winning more in spite of Ancelotti's lack of tactics than because of him, but for the most part, it made sense that they wanted to keep him. They won the league and the Champions League, for goodness sake. I mean, how do you get rid of a guy after that? In hindsight, that what would have been very brave choice may have been the better choice when it comes to legacy and how he'll be remembered, but it felt like it would be a good idea to keep him. And given his track record of working with big players and with Mbappe coming in, if anyone could have sorted out Real Madrid's riches of attacking talent, it would be Carleto. He has the track record. But as I've made a couple of videos about, he hasn't really been able to get their superstar attack all firing at once. And making the hard decision to perhaps drop one player for the betterment of the attack overall has been a decision he hasn't been willing to take or to make. Now, the aforementioned disaster for Brazil sees them crash out of the Copa America last summer, earlier than they would have liked, as well as the Seleção sitting in 4th in World Cup qualifying, having recently been smoked 4-1 by Argentina, who are 10 points ahead of them. That ain't good, fellas. So Brazil want a new coach once again, and Ancelotti is their top target once again. There were rumors that they had already signed Jorge Jesus. That man had great success in Brazil with Flamengo. I can't speak on that, but he had great success in Brazil with Flamengo. But his signing for Brazil was never confirmed, with the accepted story being that Brazil are waiting to see what happens with Carlo Ancelotti this season, as they want him to lead the national team to the 2026 World Cup. He is their guy. And they're waiting things out because after Real Madrid were eliminated from the Champions League without really looking up to snuff, their future out of their hands in La Liga, as Barcelona just have to match their results essentially, and they have a difficult task in beating Barcelona in the Copa del Rey final, a team that has outscored them 9-2 this season in their 2 meetings. I mean, there are murmurs that Ancelotti's job is basically hanging in the balance, and if he doesn't win the Copa del Rey final on April 26th, he will not be seeing out his contract that ends in June of 2026. Now, following their exit against Arsenal, Ancelotti was super open and realistic about his future, as he usually is, saying, quote, "Maybe the club decides to replace me, and maybe it could be this year or next year when my contract is over. But when I am done here, I will be grateful to this club. That could be tomorrow, 10 days, 1 month, or in 1 year. But if my contract ends or doesn't end, I really don't care." So, whatever the understanding between him and Perez is, I mean, we don't know, that's not public knowledge, but it certainly seems like it is crystal clear in Carleto's mind. Oh, and there's one more option for Ancelotti. If he is to leave Real Madrid, and if he doesn't take on the Brazil national team, AS Roma. Of course, Ranieri is just a caretaker, but Ranieri is moving into a senior executive role at AS Roma at the conclusion of this season, and he is already sounding out potential managers to take over at the club. Given AS Roma is the team that Ancelotti represented the most during his playing career, not AC Milan, it's the dream of some supporters and club executives to have not only a player that's a big name in their club history books, but an iconic coach in football history to join them. Would he be a fit? I'm not certain about that, but the romantic in me would love to see that. And I'm sure there are plenty of Real Madrid supporters that would love to see Xabi return to the club as well.
Came in a difficult situation to prove so many things. It was a great first experience.
Last year, Xabi said that he would stay for another season, and I supported that decision greatly. But now, it just seems like it's as close to a foregone conclusion as possible that Xabi Alonso will leave Bayer Leverkusen and that Real Madrid is the likely destination, as we've gone over and will continue to go over. First, take everything we've said about Ancelotti and how it seems like he won't be there next season. Then, let's hear what Bayer Leverkusen CEO Fernando Carro said regarding Xabi's future. So, it had been rumored that there was a release clause in his contract, to which Carro cleared things up when asked about this, saying, quote, "No, but we have a gentleman's agreement. If a team he has played for comes, we will sit down and talk, and we won't put obstacles in his way. He's played for Bayern, Liverpool, Real Madrid, and Real Sociedad. Maybe Real Sociedad will come. Last year during the international break, he assured us that he would stay with us, despite having offers from other teams. This international break, at the end of March, we sat down to talk, and we have given ourselves some time to decide if he will stay with us until next year. We are very calm because we have an excellent relationship. Okay, so two things. First of all of this video can be scrapped because he's going to Real Sociedad. No, but seriously, he said that last season he explicitly told them he would stay. Well, this season, clearly he didn't say that. He has said that he wants to leave should one of his former clubs come calling, as Carro otherwise would have stated that Xabi wants to stay to see out his contract. Also, saying that they won't put obstacles in the way of it is pretty interesting. And cool of them. That's pretty chill. Now, of Xabi's former teams, it doesn't at all seem likely he'll go to Liverpool. About to be champions, Slot has them playing well. Nah, can't see it. Bayern, despite company's time there being kind of hard to judge, given they will likely win the title as they have an 8-point lead with 4 matches to go over Bayer Leverkusen. Even if they aren't overjoyed with the performance of the team this season, it's more likely than not that he will get another season to continue to develop this Bayern side. Real Sociedad, sure, a bad season for them, but will they really throw Imanol to the side after all he's done for that club? Not likely, and also not so likely that Xabi will go to Real Sociedad at this point in his career. I mean, he's already proven that he can elevate a club like Leverkusen to being league and cup winners in Germany. He has that on his resume already. He doesn't need to prove much to get a chance at another big club. So that leaves Real Madrid. And if you marry everything we've spoken of already, it's certainly, that's the international sign of marriage, but it certainly seems like, in my opinion, it is far more likely than not that Xabi Alonso will be Real Madrid's coach next season. Now, of course, there's a chance that he won't be, to which I'll hold my hands up and say that my prediction was wrong, hands up accountability here. But it feels like this confluence of things, Leverkusen's overhaul and a new coach leading it making more sense than a guy who's going to leave at the end of next season. Ancelotti underperforming with Real and him being wanted badly elsewhere, whether that's Brazil, AS Roma, whomever. What Leverkusen CEO said of not standing in the way of Xabi, and how that compares to what he said about last season, in which he explicitly said that Xabi wanted to stay, and how Real Madrid are in need of a coach who instills more structure, and Xabi is a guy who brings different ideas and is a coach that can grow, a former player that will command respect. It certainly feels very, very likely to me that Xabi Alonso ends up at Real Madrid next season. But hey, that's my view of it, guys. Time will tell if we're correct, right? Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me here, and I will catch you soon in another video. Take care.